The NBA may need to step in to help handle CBA negotiations.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. What we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about if Flau'jae Johnson could potentially be an even brighter spotlight than we're really bringing attention to. The expansion draft, what that could possibly look like. Obviously, still needing to figure out some CBA negotiations in order for that to go on. And speaking of CBA negotiations, Adam Silver said before the NBA Cup that he would possibly join WNBA CBA negotiations. He said, "We're available to do whatever is necessary to help get a deal done. I'm encouraged by the fact that they extended the deadline once again into January. Presumably, the sides wouldn't have been willing to do that unless they thought there was a constructive path to getting a deal done." There's been some response from this too by some players, especially when we were kind of talking about during that time during training camp and all of that going on. Breanna Stewart had made a response to it saying that more often than not, we're the ones that are willing to compromise and they still aren't budging. So if they're not going to budge, we're going to get to a point where there's going to be a standoff, in which she later said, "What we're doing right now isn't really getting us anywhere. If that means Adam and Mark need to come to the table, we're more than happy to have that," referring to Adam Silver, the commissioner, and then Deputy NBA Commissioner Mark Tatum. Sophia, what are your responses to this and the NBA possibly getting involved in this a little bit more?
For Adam Silver to say that he is encouraged by the extension is very true, because in these current extensions, one of the contingencies is that both sides have a 48-hour notice to terminate the CBA. And that would be mainly if neither side really felt like they were getting anywhere and they were like, here's the deadline, this is what we're going to do. So an exception means that there's still dialogue and back and forth going on. So if he's encouraged by that, I think he sees the value in the conversation and the progress that they're trying to negotiate the CBA with. But when you look at some of the timelines involved, where we'll get into the expansion draft, but this time last year, the Golden State Valkyries already had theirs, so they're a little behind on that. Free agency is going to be major. Essentially, every single veteran in the WNBA will be a free agent, except for maybe 2 players, I believe. So that's going to definitely be a deciding factor that players want time to shop around for, but also just to continue the momentum that the WNBA has. And the NBA owns roughly 60% of the WNBA. So they have a very large part in the success of the league, and they will want to see the league continue its success. And so for Adam Silver to say that he might get involved in some of these negotiations isn't unheard of. Also, when you consider that Kathy Engelbert is kind of one of his appointees, essentially.
Yeah, you're right. And especially as you mentioned, the NBA does own roughly 60% of the WNBA. So obviously, if there's any increase in WNBA salary, revenue sharing, whatever that may look like, that would pour into some NBA financing to help back the WNBA. So I'm sure he's going to want to play a significant part in that. But I think he also understands that they need to come to a good agreement because the WNBA is growing. So as the WNBA grows, it's also going to help the NBA to an extent when you're thinking of some of that financial backing, and as well as just some of those TV deals. I don't think people understand, and maybe I didn't understand either before I started working in TV, just how significant some of those media deals are. So you want to make sure you have a good product that is going on, that is increasing your sales. So eventually, basically you have a better business overall from the NBA to the WNBA level.
Exactly. And even when you consider the fact that there's a lot of aside from the direct NBA, WNBA at a front office and a league standpoint, but a lot of these individual teams overlap in their ownership as well. Golden State, for example, Warriors and Valkyries. Phoenix, they have this Phoenix Suns, plural, and the Mercury. So there are a lot of this multiple interests at play that I think both sides will really benefit from seeing the other succeed. And why, again, I think it's not completely unreasonable to allow Adam Silver to have a bit of a hand in these talks.
Just some other updates within the WNBA and along all of the league. There's an exciting new hire for one of the expansion teams, the Portland Fire. They have hired Hall of Famer Sylvia Fowles to be an assistant coach for the organization's inaugural season. She is a star. Sylvia Fowles is really iconic. She just recently got inducted into the Hall of Fame. She played in the WNBA from 2008 to 2022. She was with the Chicago Sky for her first 6 seasons and then the Minnesota Lynx for her last 7. She's been named the league's Defensive Player of the Year 4 times. She's 4th all-time in WNBA blocks and retired as the league's all-time leading rebounder before surpassed by Tina Charles this past season. And I mean, I can just go on all the accolades of Sylvia Fowles, but when we're looking at these expansion teams and the benefits that they get of having some of, these players that have maybe switched into coaching, we've just seen the success, especially of the Valkyries. And now that you have a Sylvia Fowles coming to a team like Portland during a time like this, it has to leave people excited.
100%. And I think specifically to Sylvia Fowles' time, a part of the Minnesota Lynx when she was on that team with Maya Moore, Simone Augustins, and Lindsay Wellen, and how dominant that team was. Maybe one of the most all-time in WNBA history. And to have that winning culture and mindset instilled in her, because she was a huge point of emphasis on that team, and to then bring it to an expansion squad, I think is going to be so valuable. She said that she had multiple coaching opportunities around the WNBA ahead of next season, but felt like Portland was the best fit for her. And she liked the concept of being a part of an expansion franchise in its first year, building from the ground up and working with a new batch of players she doesn't have particularly strong ties to. So not only is Portland happy that they got her, but it sounds like she chose them out of a couple other options and wants to be there, which is so valuable. Also, when you consider the fact that when she's going to be on Alex Sarama's staff, that's going to be very heavily dependent on player development. And we said in a previous podcast, the method of constraints-led approach, the CLA, which is it replaces traditional block training. And instead of simple movements, they put players in game-like situations. And what better person to help stimulate a game-like environment and put players in these situations to develop than someone like Sylvia Fowles.
I just know this is going to be a very strongly developed team, but I know defensively, if she is in the hands of taking control there, they're going to be in a very good spot. Just some other quick news along the league as well. Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier were named Sports Illustrated Innovators of the Year for co-founding Unrivaled. So they were named the Innovators of the Year for 2024, but it's announced in December of 2025, which is a little bit interesting. But obviously just providing a new model for what women's basketball can look like. And then another one, the Toronto Tempo revealed their jerseys, and it's Borealis, is that what the name is? Borealis blue, and
I think
Tempo
Borealis.
Maybe. I don't know, guys. These are new words for me. But if you haven't had a chance to go check those jerseys out, I highly suggest. It's on their Instagram, and I stopped scrolling when I saw those. I was like, these are some nice jerseys. But speaking a little bit more about the expansion, we're going to get into that right after this and what that mock expansion draft may look like. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all in one remote friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonnba. Okay, so as I mentioned, the expansion mock draft can't happen just yet because CBA negotiations have not been finalized. However, that doesn't stop anyone from being able to make a mock draft of what it could possibly look like. And the Athletic did a really good job at showcasing what it would possibly look like and what these picks are. So they're going based off of what Golden State's expansion draft looked like. And just a reminder for what the Valkyries were able to do during that time. They were able to pick up an all-star in Kayla Thornton and the 2025 most improved player within Veronica Burton. So you kind of have the idea when you're thinking of these expansion teams that you won't be getting the big stars, and maybe you won't, but you kind of are considering who the Valkyries were able to pick up last season. And again, we're talking about some of these teams who are going to be heavily in development. But the draft structure based on previous years means there would be 12 rounds. Through the first 6 rounds, each existing team can protect 5 players. During these rounds, each can have only 1 player selected by either Toronto or Portland. After the 6th round, existing teams can protect an additional player. During the final 6 rounds, each team can only have 1 player selected. So Toronto will select first because the Tempo were announced as an expansion team first. And then the draft will stake. Portland will have the first pick in the second half of the draft. Then the protections reset at round 7. And then the Tempo and Fire can select as many unrestricted free agents as they please, but they can offer the core designation to only 1. So I know that was a lot of information to take at one time. But when we're looking at the Toronto Tempo and some of the players that they can possibly pick up, I'll go with them first. Obviously, they have hired Sandy Brandello from the New York Liberty. I've been talking a lot. Sophia, do you want to read through some of the names of the potential picks that Toronto could pick up?
So this is what the Athletic has. From Dallas, Lee Yuru. From Minnesota, Anastasia Kosu. From LA, Sarah Ashley Barker. From Vegas, Aaliyah Nye. Isabel Borles from Atlanta. Maddie Westbeld from Chicago. Azrae Stevens from Los Angeles also. So they have LA in here twice. JC Sheldon from Washington. Dorka Juhas from Minnesota. Maureen Johannes from New York, as well as Haley Peters from Connecticut, is who the Toronto Tempo are predicted to pick.
Yes, the Temple will begin their first season, obviously, with a little front court action potentially between Stevens and Yuru. But that when we're looking at some of those potential picks, Sophia, and obviously a lot of them being from other teams, who stands out to you most in possibly benefiting what the Toronto Temple are going to look like under Sandy Brondello?
I'm looking right away at Azurá Stevens from the Los Angeles Sparks. She is one that I would think maybe Los Angeles would try to protect, but she will be a free agent. So this is where some of the things get muddled, because if she wants to leave Los Angeles Sparks, that's where maybe they won't put her on the protected list. But right away, Azurá Stevens, I'm looking at her. She received a couple of votes in that most improved player conversation this past season. She would be a really great person to have a team around, been in the league enough years, but also has that youth to her still. I also look at a Maureen Johannes, who already was coached by Sandy Brondello in New York. I love Maureen Johannes. She is such a fun player to watch, and I think that's someone that having that familiarity Sandy Brondello could really use. And I would also throw in Dorka Juhas, because she is with the Minnesota Lynx, but she did not played last season. She is currently playing in Turkey in the Turkish league as well as EuroLeague, and she's been putting up some really great numbers. She has great size, great finish around the rim, also can stretch it out. She's someone that I think if you look at that front court with her, Azurá Stevens, and Lee Yeru, is looking very solid.
And when you were looking at the New York Liberty, obviously some of those things are going to transfer over. That's another team that their front court was nuts. So I can only expect Sandy Brondello to really try to prioritize that when it comes to the expansion draft. And I think those players that you mentioned are going to be key in putting that at the forefront for them. But on the other side, for the Portland Fire, with their new coach, Alex Rama, and obviously Sylvia Fowles being able to be the assistant coach for this team now, who could they possibly pick up in this draft?
From Golden State, Carla Late. Washington, Emily Ensler. Lexi Held from Phoenix. Chloe Bibby from Indiana. Niara Sabali from New York. Rhea Marshall from Connecticut. Arike Ngumbawale from Dallas, which we'll get into that a little bit. Holly Winterbum from Atlanta. Marie Gonde from Golden State. And then Kalani Brown from Phoenix. Those are who Portland is expected to get, and I'll touch on Arike right away. I think it would be a similar situation to a potential Azurá Stevens with the Los Angeles Sparks, where you don't know if Dallas will protect them as a fear of potentially losing her during free agency. But that immediately would be a tremendous player to have. I'm liking the idea of a backcourt between her and Carla Late. I've spent a lot of time around Carla working with the Golden State Valkyries this past summer. And I think having Arike, same thing, where she's been around the league a couple years. She knows what's going on, but also youthful enough to still help build a foundation. But then looking at a player like Carla, where she is very young, early 20s, and she could really, really grow. She has a great foundation and game to her. Such a great mentality as well. She has that fiery spirit that I think will coincide well with Arike in that backcourt. But also just throwing in with head coach Alex Sarama, who spent some time internationally. He's going to like some of those international players. And I'm looking at a Carla or Chloe Bibby, Niara Sabali, and even Maria Conde in that situation.
Yeah, 6 players currently 25 or younger. So they would probably go a younger approach when we're looking at this specific mock. 5 international players, which you mentioned, really going to want to pull from them. 4 2025 rookies who are still looking for more of their WNBA debuts, if you will. But when we're giving another shout out on here, gotta shout out my girl, Lexi Held, who played at DePaul. So proud of her for being able to make it all the way to the finals with the Mercury this season. She didn't see a ton of minutes in the finals, but she was a really great addition for the team. And I think this looks to be a team that would maybe rely heavily on their guard play, but still prioritizing getting some of those inside touches. So what I'm seeing right now from the expansions is kind of backcourt versus front court in a way, and how the teams are approaching how they would possibly select their players. But really excited when this all does come to fruition, what these drafts are going to look like, because I think Golden State just set such a high bar for what they were capable of doing in an inaugural season. So now that you have two and then many more to come along, there's so much importance in making sure that this draft is done well.
Definitely. And even though teams can only protect 5 players, so you're essentially getting that first person off the bench for Toronto and Portland. Tammy Fagbenle told me in the broadcast it perfectly after a really great win. She said, "We are a team full of 6 women. We played different roles throughout our entire careers, and we really just bought into what we all need to do here at Golden State." And I think when you have solid coaches at the forefront of that, and you have a good group of players that can buy into that same "we are a team of 6 women" mentality, we see what it can produce. And it did exactly that for Golden State.
Absolutely. Coming up after this, we're going to talk about if Flau'jae Johnson can be a star in the WNBA.
Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. I recently found out that I was paying for a car wash service, so now I get to save $30 a month. That was going a little bit longer than I care to admit for. So take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on.
Not the car wash service.
I really don't know. I think I went through it maybe like once or twice, and then I checked recently. I was like, wait, why am I paying like $30 a month?
That's funny. So make sure that you guys are keeping up on your subscriptions, because trust me, they get me all the time. So I saw an interesting article on ESPN, which I felt like would be a good topic to talk about as well, in terms of what Flau'jae Johnson can really become. And I want to tread lightly on when I say topics like this, because I know people feel very strong about their players. So I'm going to start by saying that Flau'jae Johnson is a very strong, incredible player. Right now, she's averaging 15 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Obviously, LSU is within the top 5. They're in a 12-0 start. She's helped LSU win its first national championship in women's basketball as a freshman. Now it's kind of up to her. She's truly one of the last left when we're thinking about that championship LSU team, which seems so long ago now, which is so crazy. It doesn't feel that long ago. But essentially, Flau'jae had the opportunity, like we were talking about with an Olivia Miles, to enter the league already, but decided that college was the way to go for her, and she wanted to continue building her game. And I think that's been the part of now, what can we see Flau'jae Johnson really become? She's already a possible lottery pick to possibly go 5 overall and head to Chicago, maybe be reconnected with Angel Reese there. But she said that she has really been prioritizing basketball more than ever right now. She said, "You've got to keep the main thing the main thing. I make my life revolve around basketball." And I guess before the season even started, her and Kim Mulkey had a conversation in which Kim Mulkey said, "You can't rap during the season. You need to prioritize being a basketball player," which Flau'jae Johnson completely agreed to and wanted to focus on basketball during these couple of months. But she said that her life is basically like Hannah Montana. She's a basketball player, but then she's also a performer.
Hannah Montana, you could throw maybe a little bit of Troy Bolton in there if we're going if we're living for duality. but it's honestly realistic because especially college basketball. I mean, basketball at any level, but as a collegiate athlete at that Division I level, there is not much room to do a lot of other things outside of the court. Even when you're on the court and you have practice, that's even a small part because other than that, you have extra film sessions, you have extra workouts and individuals with maybe a couple of your assistants. You'll have treatment that you got to be in the training room for an hour, weight room, conditioning. So it all adds up. And even on top of that, they are still in school. So it's a lot. And I think for Flau'jae to recognize what her bigger picture is also very mature of her because, I mean, this is the year that's going to set up her career in the W essentially. And I think if she can shoot for that 5th spot, specifically because the Sky could use a little bit of help in the backcourt right now, I think she would fit into that very well. Of course, you talk about the reunion with Angel Reese and even a little bit of LSU alumni reunion in Haley Van Lith as well there. So I think that would be a really good place to fit in. But when you're looking at her game, she has a ton of competitive spirit, which that's always what you are looking for, I think, in any player around. But in terms of her talent, I mean, she's got it. You talk about two-way players. She's a playmaker. She can score at all 3 levels. Really great handles and ball handling. I think when you are looking at any backcourt, specifically point guard positions, you want to make sure that you're eliminating some of those turnovers and can handle the ball and have it on a string well. And I see a lot of that in Flau'jae.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she's a really efficient scorer, and obviously she's taking on a role that she kind of placed on herself too. And obviously with Kim Mulkey of having to be an even bigger leader for this LSU team and also one of their main scoring options. Obviously, just one more of a veteran for them, but great two-way player. As you mentioned, she's incredibly athletic. She's really strong. She can be really strong on the defensive side as well. I think when we're looking at what the WNBA may want to continue seeing from her, is maybe continuing to build that basketball IQ, just being able to read off things a little bit more. I think was a difficulty for obviously 2 different players, but a little bit of a difficulty with Haley Van Lith when she got to the Sky. If we're just comparing guards that could possibly step in and be beneficial to this roster. Just being a little bit more quick when it comes to decision making, trusting herself. But I feel like with the confidence that she has, she will be able to step into that role really quickly. I think another thing that they would maybe want to see when it comes to the WNBA to make her go from a great to an elite player is being a little bit more of a facilitator. Right now, obviously she's more of the main scoring threat, so she's the one that's going to have the ball essentially. She's averaging 2 assists a game right now. I think they would like to see that go up, especially when we're thinking about the league and when we're thinking of the Sky in particular, that definitely needs some of that depth when it comes to the guard position, and even specifically in a point guard position, because there's not a true point guard on this team as of right now, unless Courtney Vandersloot comes back in full health to start the season. So I could see her also kind of really playing a significant role of, she's a shooter, she's a threat, but she also might have to facilitate a little bit more than she's comfortable with, and trying to see if that would be a good fit for her.
And up until this point in the season, LSU's toughest opponent, you could probably say, was Duke. So once they actually get into conference play, I think more of these specific areas will be highlighted and shine through, as opposed to maybe seeing it against some of the opponents that LSU has been playing in a little bit of a weaker non-conference schedule.
Absolutely agree with you. But that'll do it for us today on Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys again tomorrow.